Okay, this is a question from the GCSE Mathematics Numeracy, Intermediate Tier, Unit 1, so it's non-calculator, and it's a typical best buy or best value for money question. So let's have a look. Right, we've got three bottles here, as we can see. We've got a small bottle, a medium bottle, and a large bottle of, looks like some sort of drink. 300 mils for 66 pence, 400 millilitres for 92 pence, and 500 millilitres for £1.25. Okay, part A says, for 3 marks, Roland is going to buy some orange juice for a party, so it's bottles of orange juice. Which size of bottle, here's the question, which size of bottle of orange juice offers best value for money? You must show your work in. You should always show your work in, even if it doesn't say that. Always show your work in. There's always marks for methods, unless it's a 1 mark question and it's right or wrong. But you should always show your work in anyway, to anybody reading what you've done can understand how you arrived at your answer. Right, so there's 2 ways we can do this. We can work out the cost of the orange juice per milliliter. Okay, so one way would be per milliliter. And whichever was the cheapest per milliliter, well, that would be the best value for money. But we could also look for a common factor in the sizes of the bottles. So what I mean is by that is, if we look at the 3 sizes, we've got 300, 400 and 500. Okay, so as the second method, we can look for a common factor. Common factor method, I call it, obviously. Is there a common factor of 300, 400 and 500? Yes, there is. 100 mils. So the common factor is 100 mils. I should say millilitres, not mils, not confused with millimetres. Okay, so a common factor of 100 millilitres. So we could work it out per 100 millilitres rather than per milliliter. And you do whichever is easier. Well, actually, if you look at it, it's going to be much easier to work it out per 100 millilitres than it is per milliliter. To work that out for 1 milliliter, I would have to divide 66 pence by 300. Now, this is non-calculated paper, and I could do it, but I'm going to get a pretty nasty decimal there. This one, to work out per milliliter, I'd have to do 92 pence divided by 400. And for this one, £1.25 divided by 500. So that's a bit trickier. But per 100 mil, so if there's a common factor, then you use that, if it's easier. To work out the cost of 100 millilitres in the small bottle, I just need to divide 66 by 3. Because if I divide 300 by 3, I get the 100 mil. And it's a bit like ratio. It's exactly, and we can use ratio to actually work out our answers. So, if we look at the small bottle, then it's 300 millilitres to 66 pence. Now, to work it out for 100 millilitres, I would divide by 3. If I divide that by 3, I divide that by 3. Just like we do with fractions, isn't it? If we simplify a fraction, we divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number. Now, 66 divided by 3 is much easier than divided by 300, really. That's a nice 22 pence. So 100 millilitres cost 22 pence for a small bottle. In the medium, we have 400 millilitres to 92 pence. And then if I want to work out 100 millilitres, I divide by 4. And I've got to divide that by 4. And I can divide that by 4 nicely. How many 4s in 92? Well, how many 4s in 9? 2. Remainder 1. How many 4s in 12? 3. So we get 23 pence. So 100 mils costs 23 pence. Now before I do the large, I can see which is cheaper. So far, the small bottle is cheaper. It's better value for money because it's only 22 pence for 100 mils. Whereas in the medium is 23 pence for 100 mils. Okay, 1 more bottle to do, large. Okay, that is 500 millilitres. to £1.25. Now if I want to work out 100 millilitres for that, I have to divide by 5. 500 divided by 5 is 100. And that tells me what to do over this side. I've got to divide £1.25 by 5. Or I could think of it as 125 pence, if it makes it easier. I could just do that on the side by here. 5, I do a little bus stop. 5 into 12, I won't bother with 1 because I know it's bigger. It's 2, remainder 2, 525 is 5. So it's 25 pence for the large bottle. Well, we can clearly see that the best value for money now is the small bottle, because 100 millilitres in the small bottle costs 22 pence, whereas the medium bottle it costs 23 pence, and the large bottle 100 millilitres costs 25 pence. So the best value for money, so all we need to do, we need to answer the question, best value is the small bottle okay, and that's that. So basically there was two ways of doing it, working out per milliliter, so per unit, and we call that the unitary method, okay, because you're working out per one thing. So per milliliter means per 1 milliliter. Or if it's easier, and quite often it is, we look for a common factor in the amounts of the things we are comparing. And we did have a common factor of 100 in 300, 400 and 500, because 100 divides into 300, 400 and 500. And it was much easier to do it for per 100 millilitres instead of per milliliter. And there we have our answer.